For just under a year, there's been an ongoing criminal inquiry into the origins of the Russiagate Mueller probe. We want to know why it is that we spent years and millions of dollars investigating the Trump administration for their supposed collusion with Russia to win the 2016 election, only to turn up no evidence. The investigation is led by John Durham, and it may be very bad news for Obama administration officials. You see, this initially started as an administrative review. Just look into this and maybe we did something wrong. But then something changed. It became a criminal inquiry, giving lead investigator John Durham the ability to subpoena people and potentially file criminal charges. We're now hearing from reporter John Solomon that based on some internal activities at the DOJ, indictments may be coming soon. And John Durham himself has said that he may complete his investigation by the end of summer. We're also hearing that the Senate will begin their Obama-era probes as well, potentially having hearings this month. Now, this may sound familiar because it kind of overlaps or basically is Obamagate. Evidence was released not too long ago that actually implicated Barack Obama himself. But I got to be reasonable here. This story is so incredibly complicated, it's very difficult for even me to explain to people how serious this is. And I got to admit, that kind of scares me. It means that there could be real wrongdoing. But because the story is so complicated, introducing this to a regular person could be near impossible. But I can simplify it to the best of my abilities. In one instance, there's potentially evidence implicating Joe Biden himself, suggesting that he recommended using the Logan Act against Michael Flynn, a Trump administration official. Let me just simplify this. The accusation, and based on some of the evidence, is that the past administration under Obama was trying to sabotage Donald Trump. So what happens if this investigation gets released at the end of summer? As John Durham says, the American people deserve to hear this story. Will that lead to criminal indictments against potentially Biden or other Obama administration officials? Maybe not. That could be reaching, but it could at the very least make them look inept or malicious. Right now, they're saying that Joe Biden's up in the polls in the double digits. They say that the congressional Democrats are leading and could potentially take the House and the Senate. They say Joe Biden's fundraising is rivaling that of Donald Trump's. And they all say in the media that Trump is losing and he knows it. But what if Trump is just lying in wait for his secret weapon? Let's be honest. Okay, first of all, I think the criminal inquiry into the origins of the Russia probe makes sense. Why did we waste all this money? It jammed up Trump's administration. It was nonsense. I mean, there are legitimate reasons to argue why it made sense. But for the most part, we're learning that it was nothing but lies, just lie after lie after lie. So perhaps we really do need this investigation. But to be fair, it's gonna help Donald Trump if it makes him look bad. Now, everybody may be getting their hopes up. We haven't seen anything concrete yet, just some circumstantial evidence, which leads people to believe that the Obama admin is they're guilty. But as far as I'm concerned, they're innocent until proven guilty. So let's see what John Durham reveals, and let's see where this brings us. But keep in mind, like I said, the Senate probes are going to begin this month, so they say. This could be further reaching than we realize. But hey, don't take it from me. Let's take it from these various news sources, starting with the Daily Mail. Now, before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate. If you'd like to support my work, there's many ways you can give, but the best thing you can do, seriously, subscribe to my channel. I can't believe that I have to say it, but if you do like my videos, subscribing really does help. And most people, seriously, more than half, who watch my content regularly aren't actually subscribed. So if you want to support the channel, just subscribe and hit that like button. But let's read the news. What does John Durham have to say, and will this be a serious criminal case? Prosecutor John Durham reveals the report into spying on Trump's campaign will be released by the end of summer and says the American people deserve to hear this story. The review, which became a criminal investigation last fall, has been derided by Democrats as simply a scheme to damage Trump's Democratic rivals before the November election. You know what the problem with that is? Couldn't you argue the Russiagate investigation itself was nothing but a scheme to hurt Donald Trump and to jam up his administration? I could argue the same thing. To be fair, I'll tell you this. Y'all got your years and millions of dollars dumped into this investigation. then I will not complain if John Durham is going to investigate how that started. It's only fair, isn't it? They say Department of Justice spokeswoman Carrie Kupek said the report was not the goal of the criminal investigation, but that it will be pivotal to the restoration of that one-tiered system of justice. There is a story to be told there. The American people deserve resolution, and frankly, justice deserves resolution, Kupek stated on behalf of Durham. Attorney General William Barr said last month that he believed there would be developments in the Durham investigation before the end of the summer. There are no guarantees in life, but we certainly hope to see one by the end of the summer. I think it's important. Kupek stressed that she was hopeful a report would emerge sooner rather than later in an effort to prevent the Durham's work, the Durham, from being potentially buried by a Democrat win should Trump lose in November. And other Republicans have expressed this concern. Last month, Attorney General William Barr said Durham is pressing ahead as hard as he can with the investigation. He said, I expect that, we will have some developments hopefully before the end of summer. Barr said that the coronavirus pandemic delayed the probe, but that progress has been made. Even after the election, the investigation is likely to continue. What happens after the election may depend on who wins, Barr says. I gotta admit, that's one of the scariest prospects I've ever heard. What if it's true, based on the circumstantial evidence, that Joe Biden did engage in wrongdoing? And then Joe Biden wins and gets rid of it all. Hey, sounds familiar, doesn't it? They say Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. If he wins and he buries it. Well, you had your special investigation. They did it for years. They found nothing. Nothing. You want to argue obstruction of justice? Okay, sure. But the Russiagate investigation, as far as I can tell, was bunk. Now, there's going to be conspiracies all around. And I'll tell you the scariest thing out of all of this is that no one's going to trust the results of this election, no matter what. If Joe Biden wins, they're going to say they're cheating. Joe Biden's he's going to bury the investigation, and he probably will. But they accuse Trump of doing the same thing. They say Trump's cheating. He used Bill Barr to bury the investigation. So what comes next? I don't know. I really don't. But we do have this story, so let's press on at least with this one. DOJ activity indicates John Durham preparing indictments, John Solomon reports. The Washington Examiner says, activity within the Justice Department indicates U.S. Attorney John Durham is working to bring the first indictments as part of a criminal investigation into the Russia inquiry, according to investigative journalist John Solomon. They say Solomon, a controversial reporter who similarly reported criminal investigative activity related to Durham's efforts months ago, told Fox Business host Lou Dobbs on Tuesday that people are frustrated by the wait, asserting there already is overwhelming evidence in the public record that crimes were committed during the Russia investigation. Now, I have to say, I actually agree with that based on substantive and legitimate reporting from numerous outlets, notably that evidence emerged, not beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's why you have indictments. They can go to court. But enough evidence emerged, as far as I can tell, to potentially bring indictments. Now, I know, look, I'm not a lawyer, but you had this big meeting with Comey, with James Comey, with Joe Biden, with Barack Obama, where they were talking about going after Michael Flynn, even though they knew he didn't do anything wrong. So why did they go after Michael Flynn if he did not do anything wrong? You see, I tell you, man, the story is ridiculously confusing and complicated for a regular person. You may be saying, I don't know anything about Michael Flynn, Tim. I know, man. I'll try and break it down for you as simply as I can. Michael Flynn was to be the national security advisor for Trump. He basically was. And as the administration was preparing to come into the White House, he was talking with a Russian ambassador. It appeared to be on the level, they said. So how could they go after him and indict him? The Logan Act, allegedly, Joe Biden asserted, which they tried to use. Instead, Michael Flynn agreed to plead to lying to the FBI while he was in some informal meeting where he mentioned something in passing. Ultimately, it's reported that the FBI threatened Flynn's son that if he didn't just plead to this, they'd go after his kid. So he agreed to it. Now, of course, on the other side, they say there's a lot of questions to be raised about wrongdoing from Michael Flynn. For now, it's just, I got to say, it's very, very, very complicated. And what I can tell you is from these notes that were released, it looks like they were digging for a crime instead of targeting someone who committed a crime. that's what it looks like. So you can make all the other arguments in the world you want. You can say maybe Michael Flynn did something wrong. Then why would they need to recommend the Logan Act, which has never been used before? I understand this may be really, really confusing, but let's read a little bit more and we'll talk about John Solomon. They say, this is what John Solomon said. My sources tell me there's a lot of activity I'm seeing. Personally, activity behind the scenes of the Justice Department, Solomon said on Tuesday, adding that Durham's team is trying to bring those first indictments, and I would look for a time around Labor Day to see the first sort of action by the Justice Department. Solomon insisted that he is seeing a lot of activity consistent with building prosecutions and preparing for criminal plea bargains, but also acknowledged that none of this may lead to anything. That doesn't mean it'll happen, Solomon said. Until someone signs and until they bring them before the grand jury, you never know if it's going to happen. Please take that for all it's worth. This could be a big nothing burger. And I will tell you this based on my understanding of politics and my expectations, nothing is going to happen. I think it is wishful thinking that somehow someone in the Obama administration is criminally indicted. But hey, man, I don't know. Even John Solomon is saying maybe nothing could happen. They're just going through these motions, and who knows? And I'll be fair to mention, Solomon himself has been criticized for being wrong, and he's done some interviews where the interviewee said things that turned out to not be true, but he's been heavily criticized and attacked by the mainstream media. Whether or not that strikes at his credibility, I'm not going to say. Because, of course, if John Solomon did uncover evidence that made the Democrats look bad, of course, the media is going to go after him. So we'll see how that plays out. But I do want to point out that Durham's investigation is a criminal probe, not just reported by Fox News, but also reported by the New York Times, who took a very interesting framing of the story. If it is a criminal probe, then criminal charges are possible. If they are going to be wrapping up this investigation, or at least a report by the end of the summer, if they issue a public report, then it stands to reason there could be indictments. And again, Senate Republicans are going to be launching a probe, which I'll get to in just a second. Justice Department is said to open criminal inquiry into its own Russia investigation. The move is likely to open the Attorney General to accusations that he is trying to deliver a political victory to President Trump. Well, why didn't they say that about the Russia investigation? Launching an investigation into Donald Trump could be seen as a political ploy, blah, blah. No, it was like Trump accused. And then we have those famous videos. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where you get every single news anchor going, the beginning of the end for Trump. The walls are closing in. Could this be it for Trump? The walls were closing in at the beginning of the end. We get it. Bombshell, bombshell, bombshell. And it turned out to be nothing burger. That's why I say this may be nothing burger. It could be. The murmurings are just designed to bolster Trump. You know why? Here's what they're saying. Devin Nunes, John Durham's Russia investigation in danger of getting buried. That's right. If Joe Biden wins, he may bury the investigation, and then you'll never know about the crimes they committed. You got to get out and vote to protect this. Because like they said, the Durham investigation may continue even after the election. But not if Joe Biden wins. He'll bury it. Now, if Joe Biden really did commit a crime, yeah, of course he's going to bury it. Why wouldn't he? So maybe we'll get a report, and then maybe they'll dangle criminal, prosecutions, but only if Donald Trump wins. Now, they won't say it overtly. They'll say, we expect there may be criminal charges. The investigation is ongoing. And then many people might be like, we have to support Trump if that's the case. To be fair, that may literally be the case, and here's evidence from the New York Post. Joe Biden may have personally raised idea to investigate Michael Flynn. They say may have because it's coming from someone else's notes. But this does implicate Joe Biden. Check it out. Former Vice President Joe Biden appears to have personally raised the idea of investigating Michael Flynn for potentially having violated the obscure Logan Act during his phone calls with then Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, according to newly filed court papers Wednesday. The previously sealed document also says that former President Barack Obama told top members of his administration that the right people should investigate Flynn. But then FBI Director James Comey acknowledged during the meeting, which also involved Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates and possibly National Security Advisor Susan Rice, that Flynn's conversations with Kislyak, quote, appeared legit, according to the Washington, D.C. federal court filing by Flynn's defense lawyers. The revelations are contained in handwritten notes prepared by disgraced ex-FBI agent Peter Strzok. that Flynn's lawyers called stunning and exculpatory evidence in the government's since abandoned case against Trump's former national security advisor. Let me slow down a second. First and foremost, this is from Flynn's defense filing, but it includes legit notes from Peter Strzok, the FBI agent who wanted to go after Flynn. He wrote this down. Maybe he wrote down gibberish nonsense. Maybe he's secretly been a double agent for Donald Trump and he is framing the Obama administration. I really doubt it. The most likely scenario, Peter Strzok took notes at the meeting, and unfortunately for them, it implicates Joe Biden. Let's read a little bit more. They say a partially blacked out copy of Strzok's notes is attached to the filing and includes a mention that appears to say VP Logan Act. According to Strzok's notes, it appears that Vice President Biden personally raised the idea of the Logan Act, defense lawyers Jesse Binnall and Sidney Powell wrote. That became an admitted pretext to investigate General Flynn. And it is true that Joe Biden sought the unmasking of Michael Flynn's name. Again, complicated, jargon. The general idea is Joe Biden wanted to know who was engaging in phone calls with certain individuals, and he received the name of Michael Flynn. So more evidence to suggest that Joe Biden had a real reason to suggest a way to go after Michael Flynn. Now, you can argue that Joe Biden legitimately thought Michael Flynn was doing something wrong and needed a pretext to go after Flynn. But should that be what the government does? Make up pretexts? Just use the Logan Act. We know, based on the unmasking, that he was, talking to this guy. So we'll use that as grounds for investigating because we think he did something wrong. No, I'm sorry. I don't buy it. To me, it sounds like they had no real justification to go after Flynn and decided, we'll make one up. That's what it sounds like. But listen, right now, Trump is in office and John Durham is not one of his long-standing allies. Supposedly Durham is like a legit dude who's been in the, who's been a part of the DOJ, I suppose, for a long time. And he's supposed to be trustworthy, a nonpartisan actor. I mean, for that matter, the smears they levy against Bill Barr, too, it doesn't fly with me. Bill Barr was the AG a long time ago. He was brought back out of retirement. If he wasn't corrupt then, why would he be corrupt now? I think that would be absurd. So Bill Barr seems like a rather reasoned fella, and I mostly trust him. I don't know him personally, but he seems to be on the level. Durham is doing this investigation. We'll see what plays out. Here's what they say. The Logan Act, that became the admitted pretext to investigate Flynn. The revelation contradicts Biden's claim of total ignorance regarding the Flynn probe when he was vice president, which he was asked about in an interview with George Stephanopoulos. He said, I know nothing about those moves to investigate Flynn. Whoa! Joe Biden lied on TV. You see, this all sort of points in one direction, that they were doing something wrong. Biden later claimed he misunderstood the question, adding, I was aware that there was that they asked for an investigation, but that's all I know about it. And I don't think anything else. Anything else? I mean, you were in the meeting with Comey and Obama, and apparently you made some statements about the Logan Act or said something. What do you mean you didn't know? The first question he was asked, I don't know anything about that. When Stephanopoulos pressed him and said, you were in the meeting. Yeah, that's right. That's sure. But I don't know anything else. I don't buy it. I really don't. But again, it doesn't mean we're going to actually see some criminal charges against Biden or anybody else. I think that's wishful thinking. A lot of people have speculated that even if there's evidence of wrongdoing, they'll just throw some low-level FBI people under the bus, and Obama and Biden, nothing bad will happen. But we'll see, because it's not just Durham. Senate GOP set to ramp up Obama-era probes. This breaking news from just the other day, The Hill reporting. Senate Republicans are preparing to ramp up their Obama-era probes, pushing the controversial investigations back into the spotlight as the 2020 elections heat up. The efforts have sparked high-profile tensions with Senate Democrats and public rebukes from former Vice President Joe Biden's orbit. They view the efforts as an attempt to meddle in the 2020 elections, where Biden is the presumptive Democratic nominee. Cry me a river. You were screaming Russia at Trump in his face nonstop before and after he got elected, so spare me. We think they're just trying to meddle. Oh, pot, meet, kettle. I don't care. Investigate. So be it. You made the rules. You made the bed. You lie in it. They say with Senate coming back to Washington on Monday and the number of legislative days quickly dwindling, Republicans are preparing to step up their efforts. In July, we will be having some public hearings. There's a lot to be done between now and September. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham said during a social media Q&A, adding that he would investigate the investigators. I don't believe it. I don't trust Lindsey Graham. I do not view him as particularly effective, and I don't think he cares. He's defended Joe Biden on more than one occasion. This is just it's political theater, man. Oh, we're gonna investigate. Yeah. No, you're not gonna do anything. I really doubt they will because they haven't. Why is it that we spent years of this, and where are we now? Maybe Durham will reveal something important. Maybe the Republicans, for the most part, I'm going to say it, seem to be worthless. Not like the Democrats are good. Okay, they're all bad as far as I'm concerned. There's a handful of Republicans that I like. Rand Paul's cool. Dan Crenshaw's all right. Matt Gaetz is pretty cool. And you got the Democrats have Tulsi Gabbard. She's all right. Notice I'm praising them because they tend to be the anti-war ones, except for Dan Crenshaw. I disagree with him on that one. But anyway, let's read. Graham specifically singled out former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, saying he wants her to testify about a January 5th, 2017 White House meeting, which has been an area of interest for Republicans. At the meeting, then President Obama and then FBI Director James Comey discussed sharing national security information related to Russia with incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Yates did not respond to a request for comment about whether Graham or his staff had reached out about testifying. Asked if they had reached out to Yates or her representatives, a spokesman for Graham sidestepped the question, saying, "Stay tuned." Meanwhile, Senator Ron Johnson, the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, told The Hill that he wants to release an interim report on an investigation linked to Biden's son, Hunter Biden, by the time the Senate leaves for a 4-week break on August 7th. His staff is already drafting parts of the report. We've got a very detailed timeline. I've told staff I certainly want to get something out before the August recess, as incomplete as it is, Johnson told The Hill. At some point in time, we've got to say, okay, here's what we've got. Here's the remaining questions that need to be answered. The two chairmen, as well as Senate Finance Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, are months into wide-ranging investigations that touch on some of the biggest grievances President Trump and conservative allies have, including the origins of the Russia investigation, the court established by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and Hunter Biden. Staff on the Finance and on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committees are scheduled to start holding closed-door transcribed interviews with Senate Department officials next week, two Senate aides told The Hill. Interviews are scheduled with some but not all of the 4 officials requested to testify in an April 30 letter from the 2 Republican chairmen. At the time, they requested sit-downs with Ambassador Bridget Brink, Ambassador Jeffrey Pyatt, George Kent, and Elizabeth Zentos. Asked about other interviews, a State Department spokesman said, "As a general matter, we do not comment on correspondence with Congress." There's a lot that's going to happen. This could result in a major swing in favor of Donald Trump. Now, look, I got to be honest, man. It is a powerful political play for Republicans, Trump or otherwise. All of this stuff is going to drop just before an election. I think it's fair to criticize this and say, I don't like the idea of them coming out in 2015 and accusing Trump of working with Russia and then spending years to go after him. This is dangerous for our country. But I also have to be fair and say, what if it's true that they engaged in serious and overt wrongdoing? We can't just ignore it. It needs to be investigated. And the time frame is the time frame. These are challenging times, man. You know, we talk about this idea of civil war. And a lot of people have mentioned it. A lot of people get mad when I bring it up. Hey, it is what it is. You've got the Democrats and the Republicans accusing each other of doing the exact same things. Both view each other as overtly corrupt and criminal. Both sides know that they're right. So what happens if this investigation reveals wrongdoing on the part of the Democrats? Then you're going to see a bunch of low-level Democrats, street-level individuals screaming, Trump is cheating, Bill Barr is lying, Durham is lying. This is Trump trying to steal the election. If it comes out that there's nothing, then I think nothing would really happen. But the scary thing is, at the highest level in politics, the former administration, the current administration, seem to be at odds, accusing each other of extreme wrongdoing. Well, Obama lost that battle. Turns out there was no evidence of Trump colluding with Russia. Now we have Trump, not necessarily Trump, but the Durham investigation from Bill Barr going after Democrats. They're all saying the exact same thing that Republicans were saying about them. So it seems like a double standard. You don't get to demand that you investigate Trump and accuse him of all this stuff, And then when they say, okay, our turn now to figure out why you did it, then go, no, 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 help, help, I'm being repressed. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. Let's see what these investigations reveal. And at any rate, this may lead to a massive swing in favor of Donald Trump. We'll see. Stick around. The next segment is coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all there.